3 fastballs in a row, I'm looking for a break ball. This is not the time to abandon my plan, because here it's coming. It's coming. Now the trick is, when you get it, don't miss it.
Arteaga drives one to center. Miller hustling over. Diving catch by Ian Miller. A great catch.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nhole podcast. This is your host, Ian Miller. Today, I am joined by an absolute legend, 14-year MLB veteran, 3-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove winner, 2 Silver Slugger. Bret Boone, what's going on? How you doing, man?
Hey, Ian, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an absolute honor to have you. How's everything going on your end? What are you up to right now?
What am I up to? Nothing. I've got a house full of kids, and they're out of the house, most of them, but they're off doing their. It seems like they're always coming and going. I got a bunch going to college, a bunch coming back from college. I got my oldest boy's here is getting ready for his minor league season, so he stays with me in the off season. So just dad stuff. We got the podcast, doing that 2 or 3 times a week. And we're gearing up, ready for the Super Bowl. I'm headed out to Utah to go skiing for a few days. And a buddy of mine's Super Bowl party, and then get ready for spring training.
I love that, man. That fires me up. So I have she just turned 8 months, man, a daughter. So I like 2 days ago. So I kind of feel the the dad comment right there. I'm sure time flies, right? I'm sure you can remember.
Oh yeah, you're at the beginning stages, so buckle up. It's gonna be a wild ride, but a cool ride, And I look back. I just married off my daughter a few months back, 3 or 4 months ago, and she married a great guy. Thank you, but still, it's kind of it's an eerie reality. It's like we're getting older, and it's I can remember those times, just a little girl and having to get up at 5 a.m, go downstairs and play, and then all of a sudden you're marrying her off, and you kind of wish for a second that you could have those times back, but then you think about those times and how much you weren't getting any sleep at night. You had to get ready for the season, so it's all good. But enjoy the early times, but just at different stages. My youngest, I have a stepdaughter that's 16 years old. That's my youngest. I've got 2 younger boys that are 19. They're all over the map, but all doing really well.
I love it. We're just she just got her 2 bottom teeth in, man. Where we're at, we just introduced her to solid food, so we're kind of going through that. Man, it's a long, steady climb, right, on the journey of fatherhood. I wanted to get you on here. I'm so grateful for your time, man. This is the Nhole podcast, where I just try to provide insight to the next generation of baseball players. Man, I made it to the big leagues in the Nhole. I was fortunate enough to get a cup of coffee up there, play a little bit with the Twins, play a little bit with the Cubs. But man, being able to have guys like you come on the podcast, talk about your story, talk about the things that worked for you, and maybe being able to relate some of that and to what what you say, what we hear, being able to relate that, verbalize it to my audience, man, break it down for them. Like, dude, you had an incredible career. I'd love to dive into the bat, the glove, the success you had throughout the 14 year career, right? Man, I'd love to pepper you with questions. If it gets to be too much, let me know, right? I'm gonna get excited, right? So tell me to calm down or move on if I hit on something for too long, man. But it's no secret you raked throughout, the entirety of your career. 266 batting average, 252 home runs, 1,021 RBI in 1,780 games, 14 seasons, man. What was your mindset when you were hitting? I know the game, man, we could go into a long argument. The game may be different now. Pitchers may be doing different stuff. The rules are changing, whatever it is. Like, what, man, when you strip it down bare, like, what was your approach and mindset at the plate offensively?
Well, I think as much as the game changes, it's still baseball at the core. It's still hitter in the box against pitcher, the game inside the game, the mental strategy, and that comes with experience. I came to the big leagues, hair on fire. And that's all I can remember is minor leagues. I got through the minor leagues pretty quick, had a lot of success, got to the big leagues and thought it was going to be easy. And thought, well, I'm going to continue. I'll give you a quick story. It's funny. My first big league at bat, I fly all night. And this is kind of give you the mindset I was in as a young player. I get on, I'm playing in Calgary, Canada, and that was the AAA affiliate for the Seattle Mariners. I get the call. I don't sleep all night because I'm thinking about, my first game in the big leagues. It's something we all dream about our whole life. So I get on the plane, and it's my first time flying in first class. And I probably looked like I was 15 or 16 years old. I had that baby face, and I looked young as it was, but I'm in first class, and this businessman's sitting next to me, and he's asking me a bunch of questions. And I'm sitting there like, ask me questions. Ask me why I'm going to Baltimore. And he asked me, he said, kid, what are you doing flying in first class headed to Baltimore? I said, I'm going to the big league, sir. He said, come on, no, really, what are you doing? I said, I'm making my debut tomorrow. And he said, really? He said, that's pretty awesome. I said, you want to go to the game? I was going to leave him tickets. He says, I can't go to the game tomorrow. I've got a business, one thing or another. He said, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to be watching you on TV. He goes, what am I going to see? I said, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I said, something's going to be hit very hard my first at bat. And he said, all right, I'm going to hold you to that. So I still to this day have not, don't remember the gentleman's name or have never come across him. My first at bat, I got a base hit up the middle. RBI, Jay Buhner scored. I remember getting to first base, and I believe it was Randy Milligan. He was at first base, and I'm trying to play it cool. I'm really excited. I got my first hit, but I'm playing it like I've been here and I've done this before, even though I haven't. And he says to me, he says, kid, you got 2,999 to go, as he throws in my first base hit. And I said, you know what? I appreciate that. But inside, I was thinking, he's way off. I'm going to get way more hits than that in the big leagues. And that was my mindset back then. Now, fast forward, I went through a long career of some really good times and some great seasons, and I had my share of humble pie too. Believe me, I didn't get the 3,000 hits, but that's how I was back then. That's how I thought. That was my mindset all the way through the minor leagues. It's if you don't know who I am and where I'm going, just ask me and pull up a seat because I'm going to tell you. From age 10, I'm going to play in the big leagues for 15 years. Through high school, I had that same mindset. I'd get called in for, hey, what do you want to study in college? I don't care. Just get me to college and we'll worry about the studies. I'm not going to study anyway because I'm going to go play baseball. In college, meeting with my counselors. What do I need to stay eligible? 2.0. Well, then get me classes and I'll make sure I get a 2.0. And I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have a what if. That's not how my brain thought back then. Now, get to the big leagues 10 years in, I look back at that young kid and think, wow, was I naive, on how hard this was going to be, what the process was going to be like. But then a side of me thinks because I was so naive, maybe that gave me an edge when I was pursuing, my dreams. And, I'd look for that as a veteran player. I'd look for that young player with that blind faith and just believed in himself. That's what I look for in a young player. And, there was a lot of hazing when I came into the game. I had to wear a dress 3 or 4 times and they gave me a hard time. I loved it. I mean, I embraced it. I thought that was the way to get through it. But as a veteran player, I really didn't do that much. I didn't dress the players up. The other guys did, but I wasn't really a big part of it. All I demanded as a veteran player from a youngster coming up is respect the guys in that room and what they've accomplished. And I didn't mind if a guy came up and he was cocky or he was this or he was that. The guy pitching on the other side tonight, who we're facing tonight, whether it could be Greg Maddux or Randy Johnson, that guy's going to humble you for me. I don't have to humble you as a veteran player. But I look for those young players that with that blind confidence, which they know they're good. A lot of guys talk the talk. I've met a lot of young players that are first round pick, high draft picks, 6'3", can run like the wind, got a cannon for an arm, big time bat speed. Everybody's been telling them how great they are their whole life, but do they really believe it? Not all the time, not all the time, but that one player that maybe doesn't live up to the statistics they look for, the off the charts arm strength, the off the chart bat speed, foot speed, but are baseball players that believe in themselves. I'll take those guys all day long because they're the ones that are going to make it because they truly believe their talk.
I love that. I love that. So you were a little bit about that naiveness that you were just talking about, not the blind confidence, but having faith in your ability, right? Having that mindset, that belief that you're going to get there. You were talking to Jay Buhner, I believe the other day, right, on the Boone podcast, talking about, spring training all-stars, right? When the stats don't matter, there are certain guys that absolutely, fucking ball out, right? And then when it does matter, right, when you're in between the lines, guys kind of tighten up, guys think about it, guys get scared, you try to go like this and hang on, right? Ben, ways around that. What were ways around that? Ways to get out of a funk, ways to slow the game down, maybe that worked for you, if you could maybe touch on some things like that.
Well, I think for me, I went through tough times as a young player, like anybody else. I grew up in the game, so I mean, until I was an A-ball, my dad was still in the big leagues. So I had a different upbringing than most. I had been around the game. I'd been in big league clubhouses my whole life. But there's a big difference in being in a big league clubhouse as a little kid running around and now when you have a uniform and it's your job. I mean, it's night and day. It's just as hard for me as any other rookie that didn't grow up in the game when it comes to performing. I think early on, I got there, like I said, my first at bat, I got the base hit up the middle. I said, in my mind, of course I did. I'm going to hit 350 in the big leagues. Well, 2 months later, my first stint in the big leagues, I'm hitting 198. I'm sitting in my locker. I'll never forget it in Seattle next to a buddy of mine who had a little time in the big leagues at the time, Mike Blowers. I'd played with him in AAA. And I looked at him and I said, wow, big leagues is really hard. And he looked at me and he kind of gave me that, yeah, no shit. And that was my first time where it kind of, I talk about humble pie throughout my career. That was a first time where it was really humbling for me. And I remember Edgar Martinez at a young age. And Edgar to this day is one of my good friends. And I played with him his last 4 years of his career. We were teammates in Seattle. And I remember him telling me at the end of my rookie call-up season, he said, Booney, you're going to have to hit the breaking pitch because if you don't, you're going to get abused up here. And I took that into the off season and I started thinking about it. And he was right. I got through the minor leagues really not hitting breaking balls, but I had the uncanny ability to lay off a bad breaking ball. And in the minor leagues, they go breaking ball, ball one, breaking ball, ball two. And then it would get a pitch to hit. There wasn't a fastball out there that you could throw me that I couldn't handle. In the big leagues, it seemed like they went breaking ball, ball one, breaking ball two. Okay, here comes it. No, breaking ball, strike one, breaking ball, strike two, high fastball to a young, aggressive hitter. And I was hacking. So they kind of had me out of whack. The big leagues is the big leagues for a reason. They do things that minor league players can't do, or at the time. So it was a big learning process for me. I started to sit on breaking balls. I started to look for off-speed pitches and started to have some success. And success is really what breeds the ability to play in the big leagues. You've got to succeed, and you've got to find a way individualistically how to do that. For me, it was sitting on off-speed pitches. Once I got you a few times with a breaking ball, a changeup, now I could get back to being a regular hitter and look for that fastball out over the plate, and now the ability to lay off the off speed. So I don't think it's necessarily the same for everybody. I had a weird two-strike approach where I looked for the slowest pitch. If you topped out at 96 and you had a changeup that was 74, I'm sitting on 74. And
Really?
you're not going to be able to beat me with that changeup. You're not going to be able to beat me with a 76 mile an hour, greatly located curveball in the corner. I wasn't going to go back to the dugout yelling at the umpire because the guy made a good pitch. When I had two strikes, I was protecting the plate. And the only way I found for myself, that's why I say it's very individualistic. I wouldn't, this is not going to work for everybody. But if your slowest pitch is 72, 74, that's what I'm sitting on. And I'm going to fight off the fastball. You throw me a fastball, my job is to just get a piece of it and foul it off, live to fight another day. Hopefully you'd hang me that curveball, hang me that changeup out over the plate, or leave a fastball away that I could just flick and take my base hit to right field. But I always did that. So we all have got to find our way, what works for us. It's not coaches. Yeah, I had some people that mentors and coaches that were a big part of my career and helped me throughout my career. But for the most part, it's trial and error. I mean, it's taking advice from people that have done it before. Look to people that play the game the way you play. Follow them. What works for them? Pick their brain. But basically, it's getting in that cage, trial and error, hitting a million balls, hitting off the tee, doing all your work to exhaustion, to the point it's almost like a PGA Tour player. They don't just get on the first tee and become great players. They're hitting thousands and thousands of balls on that range, tweaking their stance. And do I have is my back foot closed? Is it open? Is my grip, am I going to have a crossover grip? Or am I going to have an interlocking grip? What works for me? The same with hitting. It's what works. Are my hands right here? Yeah, Tony Gwynn does this. Well, I'm not Tony Gwynn. I'm right-handed. He's left-handed. So what works for him might not work for me. I mentioned Edgar Martinez was a huge mentor of mine, especially late in my career. We used to sit there and talk the game to nauseam. I mean, and just how to think through the game. And we were completely different as hitters. We set up completely different. Now, when the ball was in the hitting area, we did very similar things, but we got there in a different manner, and that's okay. Everybody's got to find their niche. And it's just I love it so much, the game. I wish I knew the second half of my career, what I knew then. I wish I knew that when I first came to the big leagues. I was just kind of, like I said, I was hair on fire, man. I just was swinging hard and I could barely breathe. But the second half of my career, when I started to really think through the at-bat, think through the process, think through a 162 game schedule, and not take each at-bat live or die. It was an approach. I started to see consistent success. And sometimes the pitcher would have my number, or that particular game, my strategy didn't work out. But I knew if I had a plan each and every at bat, and I used to call it 5 deep. So I'd start thinking about my at bat when I was in the 5 hole. So if it's the 5th inning and I'm coming up 5th this inning, all right, wheels start spinning. Who's on the mound? What's my history with this guy on the mound? Who's in the bullpen? Who's hitting in front of me? Who's hitting behind me? What have I done this series? Am I hot? Am I cold? The guy hitting behind me, is he hot or is he cold? How is he done off this pitcher? How is he done off that potential bullpen guy that might come in? Now, I've got 5 hitters to go through all these thought processes and ask all these questions. I get to the on-deck circle. I pretty much have a formula of what I'm going to do. And when I leave that on-deck circle, I'm done. Nothing between I'm up there to execute a plan that I did 5 hitters ago, started the process. I'm not going to waver. I've made a decision what I'm doing this at bat. Now, if I'm going up there and looking for a breaking ball or a curve, and I don't want to say that. It's not a breaking ball, it's not a changeup, not a curveball. If I'm sitting soft, which is any off-speed pitch, until I get to 2 strikes, if he comes up and he throws me 2 fastballs right down the middle and I'm 0-2, I tip my cap and I go, okay, you beat me this round. But if I take that approach and stick with my approach steadfast, a lot of players call it, oh, you're guessing. No, it's not guess. It's an educated approach. I don't guess pitch to pitch. And you probably know, Ian, as a young player, when you first started doing, I know this guy's going to throw me a breaking ball. I know it. And you get up there and he throws you a fastball down the middle. Most young players think, oh, man, I should have been on the fastball. Now they're on the fastball and here comes a breaking ball.
In between.
The ability to go up there with an approach and stick with your approach no matter what. Sometimes I'd go up there and and it was somebody that a nemesis of mine, someone who was tough on me, had two great pitches, 2+ pitches, great fastball, great off-speed pitch, and I'd be looking for one or the other because I can touch both, but I'm not gonna hurt you with both. And it might be fastball strike one. I'm not looking for a fastball. It might be fastball ball. I got a 1-1 count. Fastball up and away, ball 2. 2-1. 3 fastballs in a row. I'm looking for a break ball. This is not the time to abandon my plan, because here it's coming. It's coming. Now the trick is, when you get it, don't miss it. And that was kind of my approach the last 5-6 years of my career. And when I had some of my biggest years, that's the way I thought. And it was deep. I love talking to hitters that hit that way. Probably the greatest to ever do it was probably Manny Ramirez. And I used to watch him game in, I'd watch him. He'd set up hitters, or he'd set up pitchers. And I could see it happening. I'd go to my staff and go, listen, I know you're having success with Manny early in the game with this. When it's late and this game is tight, do not go to the well one more time, because he will get you. And he's just sitting there like a little kid with a smile. He's not going to show you his smile. He's just waiting for you. He set that trap the first 4 or 5 innings. And you go to the well once too often with Manny, he's going to get you. He was the most disciplined hitter with having an approach I've ever seen. And until I started implementing that, when I started implementing that, I enabled myself to kind of max out on what I was capable of offensively.
That's incredible. What do you mean by Manny being able to set the pitcher up later?
Well, most guys are up there, and I'm not saying he's setting him up he's not swinging and missing at 3 breaking balls low in the dirt, low and away on purpose. But I'm saying maybe this guy, my starting pitcher tonight's got really good stuff, and he got Manny to chase a couple breaking balls and made him look silly. Well, Manny doesn't forget that. Now the layman approach to that would be, if you're in the bullpen watching as a pitcher or a pitching coach, that the average pitching coach is thinking, Manny's having a lot of trouble with the breaking ball right here. So in the 8th inning with a runner on second and third, hey, we're going to break and ball him to death. Well, that's when Manny's sitting on your neck. He's not Manny Ramirez because he can't hit a breaking ball. He's Manny Ramirez. Maybe that first couple at bats, he wasn't looking for a breaking ball, and you had a good one that day, and he just didn't see the spin. So he chased it. But late in the game, he knows he's kind of looked silly on some breaking balls. He knows that everybody in the park has seen that. You're probably going to go to that well again, and he's going to be waiting for you this time. And that's all I'm saying, is having an approach. He was so steadfast, and he would not waver. He wouldn't waver. I remember so many times him taking a fastball early in the game, nobody on, nobody out, fastball down the middle with 2 strikes, and just smiling and walking to the dugout. And I'm going, what is he thinking about right there? What is he thinking? He had a bigger plan. And like I said, I think he was one of the greatest as far as the mental approach to hitting I've ever seen.
That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. So that is a game within a game, right? Having an approach, playing, having to oh my goodness. Like that's
that's my favorite part of it. And the physical part for me, and I've worked with young hitters, and it's tough for me to work with you physically. I know exactly how to hit. I know how to think. But sometimes maybe if I'm working with Ian Miller, I know how to do it, Ian, but I don't know if I can get it into your brain with my words how to do it on the physical side. You're gonna have to find that out on your own. But if you want to talk the game and how to prepare, and it's different too. You watch. I can watch a game and I can tell who's thinking like I used to think. I can tell who's setting up pitchers. I watched that Houston Astro team. The modern day Houston Astro team, they're the best I've seen. Position by position, they all hit like that. And they're all constantly, if you watch a Houston Astros game, modern day, and I'm talking starting in about 2018 to present, you see that team. And they're constantly, when the camera's in the dugout, those hitters are constantly talking to each other and going, this is what this is. This is what he's going to do if he gets to this position. If he gets 1-2 in the count, he does it. They're constantly sharing information. They're thinking, if a Bregman goes up there, you throw a fastball away, 0-0 count. He takes his base hit to right field. Do not start him off the next at bat with a breaking ball in the middle of the plate with runners on, because he's sitting on that. He knows I just took a good located fastball and I just hit a base hit. What do pitchers say? If they locate a pitch, you as a hitter smoke it. First thing they do is, wow, that was a really good pitch. How did he do that? 9 times out of 10, you've just eliminated one of those pitches for the rest of the game in his eyes. Now, the great ones, they'll come right back. My first at bat, I'll just set up a scenario. My first at bat, I get a fastball away. I'm looking fastball away. I get a 4-seamer right on the outside corner. I hit a ball in the right center field gap for a double. Pitcher goes, man, that was a good pitch, and he smoked that. 9 times out of 10, I've just eliminated fastball away for the rest of the game. And now it becomes predictable. It becomes, what's he going to do next? Well, he's either going to pound me in with a fastball or he's going to try to trick me. I don't want to hit the fastball in off the plate, so I can just ignore that. So I'm going to sit soft, and if you throw the fastball in, it's going to be a ball. I pretty much eliminated fastball away. That's how I used to calculate. And it's about eliminating a pitch. If I can eliminate a pitch, man, that makes hitting a lot easier. It's still not easy, but it's a lot easier when the biggest struggles we have as hitters is when they're getting us out with everything. I'm getting them out with the breaking ball. I'm getting them out with the changeup. I'm getting them out with the fastball in. I'm getting them out with the fastball away. You're unpredictable. I have no idea because they're getting you out with everything. You can eliminate and have some success on one quadrant of the plate. Well, now I don't have to worry about that for the most part. You got to take it into consideration. Who's catching? That's another thing. Who's catching? Is this guy a real thinker? Does he think with you? Or does he just want a good pitch to handle if the runner steals? You got to think about that too. Some guys just put a finger down, I always would think with the catchers, because he's putting the fingers down. I'm thinking, who is that pitcher on the mound? Is that a rookie or is that Pedro Martinez? Pedro is going to have a little more control of his game. That's a rookie, and I've got a Jason Varitek behind the plate. Varitek's probably going to be running this game, so I'm going to hit off Varitek. Varitek's very smart. He knows what I'm doing. He's watching me. He's watching my body language. He's watching how I take a pitch. And I take a fastball sometimes when I'm looking for a breaking ball, and I think, did I get away with that? Or did everybody notice I just let that pitch go? Well, Varitek probably realized that I didn't move my feet like I was looking for that pitch. And he knows it. So now I've got a chess game inside the game. Now I got an extra game going on with Varitek. I might have to call an audible at that stage. I talk about always not wavering. Well, there are certain circumstances that it's an emergency, and I might have to change my strategy due to the guy behind the plate is thinking with me now. So this is my favorite part of the game. It's not for everybody. It's definitely for players that are a little more veteran, that have the confidence and the ability to focus and put it in play. But nevertheless, all players at a certain point, you get to that point where you've got to start hitting like that, because this stuff at the highest level, it's different. When I faced a left-handed pitcher, I could get away with a lot more. I could hang out over the plate and kind of just look for the ball. But if I've got a number one starter with 2+ pitches, I'm not going to hit them both. I got to get on one. If I'm facing Randy Johnson, I'm not going to hit his slider and his fastball today. It's just not going to happen. Now, like I said, I might be able to touch it. Yeah, I can put your breaking ball in play, but I'm not going to hit it. I'm not going to hurt you. If I'm sitting on it, I can hurt you. But I can't just be looking for a fastball from Pedro Martinez and he throws me a great curveball, with an 18-mile-an-hour differential, and I'm going to do damage on both. I'm not. It's like, get on one or get on the other. And that's why they're number ones. You can get away with that with the number 4 or number 5. But with the number ones, the guys that have 2+ pitches, you can't get away with it. And the guys that say, I just see ball, hit ball, well, you must be a freak of nature, because I can't do that. I can do it at a lower level, but when you get to the playing against the best in the world, the see ball, hit ball thing is really tough for me to comprehend. Maybe I just wasn't that good.
Absolute masterclass right there in hitting the approach, all that stuff, man. Being able to eliminate quadrants, right? If he throws you a fastball away and you smack it, maybe you can eliminate that, gives you a higher success chance, right? Higher percentage chance, man. You eliminate something like that. That's insane. I mean, that helps. Everybody's throwing 100 a day. There's data everywhere. Man, you touched on so many ways that I want to go with what you just said, man. But the data is number one, right? Being able to formulate a plan. Back when you were playing, you would do it five deep, right? So you would start ahead of time. Nowadays, there is data in the dugout. There is video in the dugout, right? There's some rules behind some things, but you have access to data. You're able to formalize a plan. Man, where do you see it today with the game? Man, I'll go hit with some kids out here local, and there's hit tracks in the facility. These kids aren't even on varsity yet, and it's a swing and stop. It's not dissect what that just felt like, what that mechanic was. It's just look back at the TV screen and see what the EV was. You know what I mean? And the launch angle and stuff like that, man. What do you got on that?
Well, I think those tools are great for the ball clubs and being able to evaluate and scout and draft. I think data is unbelievable. They don't get it wrong too often now in the first couple rounds of the draft. Whereas 20, 30 years ago, where they didn't have this advanced data, they probably got it right, but they weren't so sure. Nowadays, you either are or you're not. They've got it pretty down. As far as for the player, depending on who it is, I don't think advanced data and advanced technology is good for everybody. I think too much technology in the wrong hands becomes a detriment. When you've got young 18-year-old still forming brains worried about their exit velocity, when they go to the cage to work on their swing, when they know their average exit velocity is normally 95 miles an hour, and this particular day it's 94.2, but they're having great swings and the ball's sounding loud and it feels good off the bat, that should be enough. But you look around, you just had a great session, but now, hey, what was my average exit velo? Oh, you're 2 miles an hour off your normal. All of a sudden, that that went from a great session to, oh no, what am I going to do? So I think that's when it becomes a detriment. I don't think it's good. I think the technology, I think it's great. Give me everything you can. The thing that I really, the word isn't admire, but I'm envious of the current player is the data at their fingertips. I was a guy, I just wanted video, and at the big league level, most of the guys I know, especially when you go around the league 3, 4, 5 years, I kind of know all the pitchers. Yeah, occasionally you're going to have a young player coming into the game or somebody that was in the National Leagues, in the American League I haven't faced too often. The one thing I want is video. Give me the last time he started, and hopefully he's pitched against us before, and you've got a video of that. I'm going to watch that. Nowadays, I've got a laptop that got not only his last start, but every start this year, every start against me. I've got every guy in that bullpen. I've got video from recent games on all of them, and it's all at my fingertips. I mean, I'd sit in my room at night and just go over I'd be a kid in a candy shop as far as that data. When it comes to, 82% of the time in an 0-2 count, he'll throw. I laugh at that. It's so ridiculously stupid. It's like on my teams in Seattle. Okay, is Ichiro leading off the game in a 0-0 ball game, or am I hitting in the 8th with a base open? I think the pitches are going to be a little different, and you can throw those percentages out the window. So they make no sense to me, what he does in certain situations. And I think every player, at least I remember at bats. I remember my history with a particular pitcher. He probably remembers a history with me. If I do particularly well off him, he's well aware of that. If I do particularly well off him, I'm well aware of that, or vice versa. If he had as my number, he's well aware of that too. And it's time for me to make an adjustment because whatever he's doing is working. So we're very aware of one another, especially when you're in the league for a while. So it becomes that cat and mouse game more than give me the data. No, I don't care about the data. I care about this is a team sport that's very individualistic. So I could care less what he's getting other people out with. He knows, and I know, last game, what he tried to do to me and what I did to him. And he's not going to try to do that again. Or maybe he is. That's the game, or vice versa. It's like, man, I had guys that were my just nemesis of me. Like my last 3 games, not only have I not gotten any hits off them, but I haven't even had a real good at bat. What am I going to do different this time? And he knows it. It's almost like as a hitter, you can feel it when you walk to the mound. It's like this guy knows he's got my number. How do I project that this time is different? And it seems like you can't project it. You can't fake it. I used to try to fake it and walk to the plate. When I was 1 for my last 12, like they announced my name and I'd start walking to the plate like, no, I'm not 1 for 12. And I look at that pitcher and it's like I can see it in his eyes. He knows I'm 1 for 12, and it's usually a fastball right on the outside corner for a perfect strike. If I'm 10 for my last 12, I'll guarantee it's a scared fastball in the dirt. It's a curveball that misses by a foot. It's just kind of something we as players and we as hitters and pitchers, we just know. And it seems like when you're going bad, everything's on the corner. Everything's a strike. You're behind in the count every at bat. And when you're going good, you can feel it's almost like they're really careful how they pitch to you. And it's usually it's 1-0. Usually it's 2-0 count. You're in a lot of 3-1 counts. That's because you're being successful. You're seeing the ball well. You're getting everything ready in your swing early and on time. Ride that, because that doesn't always happen. It's hitting so hard. You're going to go in and out of those grooves. But I don't know. That's the chase, and that's the real challenge of hitting at that level. And having success, and it's pretty awesome. Like I said, I mean, I've already talked too long about it. I could talk for days about this.
No, I love it. That's spoken like a 3-time All-Star, 2-time Silver Slugger right there, right? That's incredible. The game within the game, man. That's an absolute masterclass. I love it. I am so grateful for you opening up about that. That's a different type of level that at least people that I know haven't even unlocked yet, right? I feel like I wasn't even conscious of that type of stuff, man, maybe until I got out of the game, right? You're doing that consistently over 14 years in the show. That's unbelievable. Man, that's amazing. I wanted to switch kind of topics a little bit, man. Be conscious of your time. I am extremely grateful. Your podcast, man, the Boone podcast, it's fantastic. You were on there talking a little bit about Gary Sheffield, right? Not making it right into the Hall of Fame. Right. But I wanted to talk about Ichiro coming up. You alluded to, being his teammate, that 2001 season, man, magical season, all that stuff. Do you think he's going to be a unanimous, first ballot Hall of Famer? What do you got on
that? If history repeats itself, no, because there's only been one, Mariano. Now, as a player, a guy that's played against a lot of guys and played against a lot of Hall of Famers, I think there should be a lot of unanimous. There's no reason that Ken Griffey Jr. had people vote against him. Who are the people that voted against him, or didn't vote for him? Were the numbers quite not there for you? I don't understand. So, I don't think he's going to be unanimous, but Ichiro definitely has those magic numbers, and he'll definitely be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Love it. Love it. Love it. We have somebody in the chat here asking a question. Who was the hardest or the most skilled pitcher that you've ever faced? Who was the toughest AB against?
Well, there were a lot of tough ones, but I would say I've got my go-to answer when I'm asked who are the toughest pitchers. I think the greatest pitcher, in my opinion, who I ever faced, who I ever saw, Greg Maddux. Year in and year out, and that's not the nastiest, but just the consistent year in and year out, game after game after game after game. Some guys, they dominate, and then they have an off game, and they give it. When Greg was missing, he was missing by inches. Like a bad game for Greg Maddux in his heyday was 7 innings, giving up 3 runs. That was like the worst. He was so consistent. He was robotic. It was like it was like facing a technician. His bad games were better than most best games. So I would say Greg's the best pound for pound over a long sample size pitcher I've ever seen, maybe the greatest in the history of the game. But that rotation at that time, my stock answer is, hey, who's the toughest pitcher? I just say Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine. In the 90s, going to Atlanta was an absolute nightmare. And I didn't have much success. But not nastiest, but the greatest technical pitcher is Greg Maddux.
I love it. Oh, I love it. That makes a ton of sense, man. 2 more questions here I got for you, man. So obviously you've put together, man, an incredible career. Extremely dominant hitter, unbelievable with the glove. What are, some tips or advice to the next generation of players that are MLB hopefuls, right? Every kid that plays baseball wants to play in the big leagues one day. Every kid that's in high school wants to be a Division I player or get drafted. Everybody that gets drafted, wants to make the show, man. What can you throw their way, man? A little tidbit.
Well, I think today's game is different. I think you need to be, you got to be passionate about it, because the kids, the athlete today is too skilled if you're not passionate enough, about the game. So obviously pick what you're passionate about. For a young player, I think, especially when you're a kid, be a kid. Enjoy life. If you're a good athlete, play all 3 sports. Find what you're passionate about. When you do find that, and usually later in high school when you're going to focus in on one sport, set goals. Be disciplined. Find something. When you set off to complete a task, when it comes to your game, complete that task every time. Makes your brain stronger. If you say, I'm going to do this, when you say you're going to do something, do it. And I mean every time. That will make you stronger in the end. I used to do that with diet as a baseball player. And I thought, I'm playing on the field with Alex Rodriguez and Ken Griffey Jr., just people that are just born more skilled than me at this game. How do I compete with them? Well, I've got to give up something. So for the off season, I'm not going to have a piece of white bread or a diet soda for 4.5 months, because that's a part of my off season. That's a big give for me. And when I get to spring training, I know that nobody around here did what I am going to do. Now, does that make me a better player? No, but it makes my brain stronger because I'm disciplined. And I know I can look around that room and go, you didn't do that. You didn't do that. I don't know anyone in this room that did what I just did, what I just gave up. I say that our biggest tool is our brain. That's our biggest tool. How can we trick our brain? How can we strengthen our brain? Even the best players I've ever been around, they have their insecurities. They all have those 0 for 10, am I ever going to get a hit again moments. But they have the ability with experience to know that you'll get through it. But the ability to trick our brain, that's the biggest thing. I found the way to do that is give something up that's important to you. Because if you can give that up, you can do anything.
That's incredible. That's incredible. A masterclass right there. Last question I got for you, Bret. Man, this is the 9-Hole podcast, right? Where I'm trying to give insight, information to the next generation of players. I was a 9-hole hitter. Man, what do you think about when you think about a 9-hole hitter? Somebody hitting in the 9-hole, what kind of traits or characteristics do you think a 9-hole hitter should possess?
Well, I think the 9-hole's changed. It's different now. It's not, 9-hole when you're in Little League is the worst hitter on the team. It's ninth. That's just the way it is. That's kind of changed now in modern day, especially in the professional game. If you're stacked with 2 real good, speed-oriented players, and they both could be really good players, both leadoff type hitters. Well, if you're lucky enough on a team to have 2 really talented leadoff hitters, instead of hitting them 1-2, because you might have an Aaron Judge nowadays. When I was playing, the best hitters were hit 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The setup guys were 2, 1. Now, kind of the best hitter is 2 and 3. The best hitter on the team usually is hitting 2nd. So that's changed from a big league thinking perspective. So you're going to have an Aaron Judge, maybe a Soto type in the 2-hole, where that used to be for that little guy that would move the runners around. Now you got your banger in the 2-hole. So if you're fortunate enough to have two of those top of the order, prototypical leadoff hitters, speed guys, you got two of them. One of them is going to be in the 9-hole now, and it's like, man, they've got him hitting ninth. What a pain in the neck. We expect as pitchers, once we get that past that 5 or 6 hole, easy sailing. Those are an easy 4 outs. But a lot of times now you got that 9-hole guy. That's going to be tough because he's not a 9-hole hitter. What he is he's the second best leadoff hitter on this really good team. So I think the definition of the 9-hole has changed over the years, and I think you see a lot of talented guys maybe hitting in that 9-hole.
I love that. That's fantastic right there, Bret Boone. Thank you so much for your time coming on here and educating us a little bit, man, about the art of hitting, the mentality behind it. Just before we get out of here, I'd love to thank the sponsor of the show, today's stream, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the Cleveland Student Visionaries of the Year. They're currently on their 7-week challenge to raise funds for the fight against blood cancer. Check out their link in the description. Appreciate everybody for being here, Bret. Man, I am so grateful for your time. This is awesome. Thank you for coming on here and just giving us all that knowledge right there.
You got it, Ian. My pleasure.
All right. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.